And now children, yesterday I explained to you that is what are the features that made France, develop a sense of patriotism, develop a sense of collective identity. Today, better we don't feel we are Indians because we feel, more sentiments and attachments to our religion. But they made it very sure and very clear that they should be, focusing on patriotism. Now, kindly take out your copies. Take down the question that I am giving you. Take down the question. What are the methods? What are the methods French introduced to create a sense of collective identity. A sense of collective identity. Point number 1. The idea of la patrie. I'm writing out the spelling and also saying it, so please write correctly. La patrie. L-A, la patrie, P-A-T-R-I-E. And les citoyens. C-I-T-O-Y-E-N. Now, the idea of la patrie, in bracket write fatherland, in bracket write fatherland, and les citoyens, in bracket write the citizen, in bracket write the citizen, emphasized a feeling of unity, emphasized a feeling of unity. Number 2, a new French flag, replaced the royal standard, Number 3, the Estates General was elected by the body of active citizens called the National Assembly. Number 4, new hymns were sung, oath taken, martyrs was commemorated, all in the name of the nation. All in the name of the nation. Now, who said talking? All in the name of the nation. Next point. Centralized administrative system. Centralized administrative. Ayush. Centralized administrative system was put in place. And there was unified laws for the whole country. And there was unified laws for the whole country. Number 6. Internal custom duties. Internal custom duties and dues. D-U-E-S. Internal custom duties and dues were abolished. Number 7. A unified system of weights and measures was adopted. 8th point. Only the French spoken in Paris, only the French spoken in Paris became the common language of the nation. Became the common language of the nation. Now, kids, kindly follow now. See, you have studied in class 9 about the French Revolution. And what you studied about the French Revolution was, first the National Assembly came into power. Once the National Assembly came into power, after that, then you had the reign of terror or Robespierre. The reign of terror or Robert Pierce, who came, ruled for 1 year. He was removed. Then you had the directory government which came into power. And finally, we had Napoleon Bonaparte. Why we had Napoleon Bonaparte was because he realized, the country needed some strict military administration to bring the country and economy under control. So what he did was, Napoleon took over power. And when Napoleon took over power, did I explain the whole thing and then I'll dictate the notes to you. Now, Napoleon came into power, and what he realized is, when Napoleon came into power, he brought about certain rules and regulations. He brought certain rules and regulations into the system. Now, these rules were called the Napoleonic Code or the Code of 1804. They were known as the Napoleonic Code or the Code of 1804. Now, children, people like the Napoleonic Code, but as every question, there's always pros and cons. Later, they began to dislike it. But let us see why they appreciated the Napoleonic Code. Firstly, Peter, 1804, mark the date. 1804, he said, do not give anybody privileges only on the basis of birth. If they're born in the first estate or the second estate, don't give them privileges. They've got enough of money, they've got enough of everything. Why do they need more privileges? Maybe there are others unfortunate, underprivileged. They are the ones who need benefits. So the first thing he said was, don't give people benefits on birth. Children, 1950, 150 years later, we made the same mistake. Gave people reservations on the basis of birth. Today, people are fighting against it because people have already taken advantage of this for generations, and yet they are claiming advantages. Now, the second thing he made was common weights and measures, common with a currency which was so well appreciated and liked by all traders, merchants, and businessmen. It became so easy for them to do trade. They could go to any part of France and the currency would be the same, the weights and measures would be the same. He gave great importance, to transport. He wanted very good transport system, and he made the government in a very simplified manner. The administration was very, very much simplified. And believe me, there were many people who liked Napoleon. And in fact, when Napoleon first started, people appreciated him and they thought he's going to be the leader who's going to bring about a revolution and freedom. But Napoleon had a very brainy idea. He wanted to conquer not only France, he wanted to conquer Europe, and then Asia, and then the world. So he had a different notion. And what he wanted to do was fight and fight and fight. He was a military dictator, not a dictator, but a military man. And so he thought he could conquer everyone through his military intelligence. Children, as he conquered one place, he left, an official to look after that place. And obviously, the official did not pay attention to the rules laid down by Napoleon. That is what people hated. Napoleon told these officials, send me money to feed my armies and send me soldiers to keep my army young and active. Now, what did these officials do? Well, they raised taxes more than they were supposed to raise taxes. Napoleon had cut down each and every tax. Here, there is this Amit Kumar Bishnoi. Will you please put your microphone off? Or I'm deleting you. You don't realize, children, when you do such things, I'm speaking and this is going to be uploaded and the whole country is going to hear you. Your name, you'll be famous. Now, children, Napoleon also advocated that he wanted soldiers. So what did the officials do? They had conscription. Conscription means forced recruitment into the army. Forced recruitment, and people didn't like that. Napoleon had stopped all the other taxes become. He had made this common tax. But this is what Napoleon did, Peter. This is what the people did. The people wanted much more than that. The people wanted much more than that. You know, he started charging so much of money, the people didn't want to pay that. They wanted more facilities from the officials, which the officials were not ready to give. And that is the reason why they did not like the Napoleonic Code and they became hostile. They became against the Napoleonic Code. Now, kindly put the heading, Napoleonic Code, Napoleonic Code or Civil Code of 1804 or Civil Code of 1804. Now, number one, it did away with all privileges, based on birth, based on birth. Number two, established equality before law. Established equality before law. Number three, Napoleon simplified administrative system. Napoleon simplified administrative system. Next point, abolished the feudal system. Abolished the feudal system. Feudal system means the zamindari system. Feudal system means the zamindari system. So he abolished the zamindari system and freed the peasants from serfdom. SERFDOM. Serfdom means bonded labor and free the peasants from serfdom. Next point, transport and communication were improved. Transport and communication were improved. Next point, people secured the right to property. People secured the right to property. Next point, new businessmen, farmers, artisans, workers enjoyed a newfound freedom. A newfound freedom. Next point, uniform laws, uniform laws, unified currency, unified laws, unified currency, standard weights and measures, standard weights and measures, help in the movement and exchange of goods, helped in the movement and exchange of goods. Now kindly put the next heading, hostility towards Napoleonic Code. Hostility towards Napoleonic Code. Now, point number 1. Administrative arrangements. Administrative arrangements did not go hand in hand with political freedom. Administrative arrangements did not go hand in hand with political freedom. Next point, taxes were increased. Taxes were increased. Next point, censorship was enforced. Censorship was enforced. The last point is there was forced conscription. There was forced conscription into the French armies. There was forced conscription into the French armies. Children, I'm stopping it here and I'll continue in the next class. Please